All right, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you can kind of see what I have going on. All right, can everyone see me and hear me?
Mhm.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, I'm so happy to be here. And honestly, stroke survivors are my favorite people to speak to. And only just behind that are the caregivers, because obviously I have an amazing friend and family support team, a medical team that got me here. I could not have done it by myself. But I love connecting with other stroke survivors because I truly feel like in life we can relate on a special level. Once again, it's a club that we never signed up to be a part of, but since we're here, I just want to love on you guys and connect with you because I know that connection is what got me through the darkest points of my stroke, and it really helped me to realize that I wasn't alone, even in the times that I really felt like I was most alone. The people that loved me the most couldn't relate to what I was going through. So I really relied on other stroke survivors to be like, listen, I know it's a totally different stroke, but I'm here for you and I understand, and we'll figure this nightmare out together. So I'm so happy to be with you. Um, I do want to start out by saying that I I live in Cincinnati, Ohio now. I've been in the States my entire life. I am a therapist by trade. I'm a social worker by trade, and I'm a thanatologist by trade. So I'm a specialist in death, dying, and grief. So I work in all things death related, which sounds really morbid, but I promise you it's a real blessing in disguise. I love working with people and some of their toughest moments when they're making really hard decisions and when they're trying to find peace in a really unsettling moment. So that's kind of my background and where I came from. I did work in that before my stroke, but obviously it has a whole new meaning post stroke. So I think I've been very blessed to be able to work in the field that I have. Let's just start here. Um, I've been competing in pageants since the age of 4. I am now the young age of 36. And so, even when I wasn't competing, I was coaching. I now coach at ages 4 through 52 of people competing in pageants all around the world. Sometimes I'm on Zoom calls at 9 p.m. and it's 9 a.m. in Japan for some of my clients. Sometimes I'm on a Zoom call with my Australian clients and it is 24 hours in the future for me. So this has always been a part of my life. I won Mrs. Ohio in 2018, and I actually got to go compete in Mrs. America and in Las Vegas, Nevada. And so that was a really special time for me, obviously. That was a huge accomplishment. I worked my butt off to get there. I was in my prime of fitness. I've never been more fit than I was for that competition. And I really gave it my all. I was representing a part of my platform was as a social worker, children that had no voice, that I was there. I had 42 legal children that I was responsible for, taking them from abused, neglected households and making sure that they got what they needed in their foster homes and or in their group homes. And so it was a really special time for me to be on that stage. Um, the irony of what would happen, I turned 30, and just a short time later, I went from being an advocate, speaking on a stage in front of thousands of people for those that had no voice, to losing my voice completely. In October 24th, 25th of 2018, I suffered a massive ischemic stroke in which I lost the ability to speak, move, breathe, and write. Um, I had a blood clot in 5 parts of my brain, and they tried so hard with thrombectomies to get the clots out of my brain, but it was too late. And that's a lot of my advocacy work, so I'll kind of touch on that later. But they could not get the blood clots out without causing more damage. So, what I know is that the night that I had my stroke, I had left work early, and I'm a workaholic. So for me to leave work early, my boss knew that something was going on. I had a massive headache all day long, and I decided that I just wanted to go home, recluse into a dark room, and relax a little bit. I couldn't really figure out why I had a headache. I'd taken medicine and everything else. Um, After I had a long nap, I woke up, I felt all better. So I sat on the couch with my husband. I was working on my laptop, catching up from the work that I missed the day prior. And I felt a little dizzy. And I felt my hearing started to be a little wonky, and I couldn't really figure out what was going on, but I just kept typing away on my court case that I had the next day. And then all of a sudden, I felt a pop in the back of my head. And it kind of sizzled out like the sound a firework makes when it explodes in the sky. And I just thought to myself, man, this isn't good. This can't be good. I don't know what it is. Um, but I tried. My husband was literally an arm's length away from me, and I tried to tell him that something was desperately wrong, but I couldn't speak at all, and I couldn't move at all. And so I was just sitting there on the couch, screaming internally, but I couldn't do anything about it. And after about 15, 20 seconds, that felt like 10 years, honestly, when you're not able to move or speak, I was finally able to throw my laptop off of my lap. And I assure you that my husband thought that I was absolutely crazy for throwing my laptop across the room. But I would do anything in that moment to get his attention from watching the TV in front of him. So he kept asking me, like, what's going on? What are you doing? Is something wrong? And my words finally came out, but they didn't make any sense. So I was saying to myself, like, I need help. I need to go to the hospital. Help me. I don't know what's wrong. I'm having trouble breathing. I can't speak properly. But my words were coming out like house, car, cat, dog, go home. And my husband was like, what are you, what are you doing? So he finally got the idea. I was able to say hospital. And he was like, yeah, we're going to the hospital. Um, Got in the car, went to the hospital, and I walked into the ER myself. And they asked me to put in my social security number. And we all have those realizing moments when we have our stroke, and they're defining for different reasons for different people. But they asked me to put in my social security number at the front desk to be escorted back to the ER. And I said, sure, not a problem. I told them my name. I went to put in my social security number, and I looked down at the keypad and I realized, oh my God, I don't know what my social security number is anymore. And obviously, I know that number for probably 20 years or so. So that was a little concerning. But then the deep realization set in that I don't know what numbers are anymore. And I just remember looking at the keypad and thinking, I don't know what's going on. I can't figure. This looks like hieroglyphics. I can't read this. I've never seen any of this before in my life. Um, that was a very defining moment for me. I was 2.5 weeks off of what you see now, off of the Mrs. America stage. I was in the ER, lying on that cold hospital bed, and they tell me you're having a stroke after a CT scan, of course. And I say to myself, okay, so what do we do now? Like, I did the realization of how serious it was. I was 30 years old. I didn't know about a stroke. That was something that old people had, like my grandparents at 80, 90. That wasn't something that someone who was 30 years old was going to have. So my first thought was, sounds good. Let's fix it. What medication can we do? Do I need some therapy? Like, let's get this going. And they said, no, you're going to have to go into your first brain surgery. And I said, what? I mean, I'm sitting there just like I am now because my speech was going in and out. Um, and they said, we're going to have to transfer you to the next hospital because we're going to have to put you into emergency surgery. And I said, well, okay. I mean, it didn't really seem like I had a choice. And once again, I was just oblivious to how the seriousness of it. Um, I said, okay, my husband will put me in the car and take me to the next hospital. And they said, no, ma'am, you have to go in the ambulance to the next hospital. And I said, no, 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 it's fine. I promise. He's a good driver. He's pretty speedy. He drives pretty fast. We'll get there in no time. And after 3 or 4 times of going back and forth with them about my husband driving me to the next hospital, they looked at me and said, ma'am, you may die. And I was like, man, okay, ambulance sounds great. Let's do the ambulance. We'll figure it out from there. But hearing bluntly that you may die at the age of 30, just brand new turning 30, just off the Mrs. America stage, um, no prior symptoms, never really known what a stroke was before. I got in the ambulance and I got on the operating table, and that was the last time that I heard my voice that I had for 30 years. So let's go on for the next. Um, what we found out is that my blood clots, as you can see from the arrows, had completely shut off my left side of my brain from the major blood supply. So what happened is I actually had a stroke from popping my own neck, just sitting at my desk, rotating my neck around, pressing on it. It actually caused a carotid artery dissection, and the dissection caused a blood clot, blocked the blood flow, and I had a headache for about 5 days before my stroke due to the strangulation of blood supply. The doctors had told me that if I had come into the hospital within one of those 5 days that I was having my stroke, that I could have, this all could have been prevented. So, but I had no idea the signs and symptoms of a stroke at that time, especially being 30, wasn't on my mind at all. I thought I was just stressed and had a lot going on, and I did, but I also had a lot going on that I had no idea was happening. Um, I went through my first thrombectomy, first of five. Like I said, they never could get the blood clots out of my brain at the time or out of my carotid artery. So my left carotid artery still to this day is completely occluded and never would get blood supply ever again. So they have let me know that if I do have another stroke, I most likely will pass away from that. Luckily, I do have enough perfusion in the back of my head now, from my vertebral arteries that does supply blood to the rest of my brain at this time. So I'm good to go. And so it's scary if you let yourself live your life in fear. I will say that I'm very sensitive. If I get headaches now, it makes me very nervous because I never know what is just a normal headache, what is a headache that you should be a little more concerned about. Whenever I get ringing in my ears or vertigo, which I had just before my stroke happened, that also makes me incredibly nervous because I just don't know when the next time, if the next time will be, and what that result will be. So I do talk a lot with a lot of other stroke survivors about going on medication, anti-anxiety medication for the first time in my life. I was so anti-medication, but the medication helped me to be able to live my life. I couldn't shower by myself because I was too anxious. I made my husband sit on the toilet while I took a shower every day. My husband stayed home from work with me because I was too anxious to be left alone. I would ask him to check on me multiple times a night to make sure that I was still alive. So these are real fears and anxieties that you have post-stroke. And I will say that with me, at least, they did get better with time, but that fear never goes away completely about what could or may happen next. And so, this is just my PSA to encourage everyone to do whatever is best for you. There's no shame in medication management if that's what's needed. My quality of life increased so much better once I was able to have that medication. So, just my little PSA for medication management. I do want to show you guys kind of where I was. So a lot of people see me now, and like I said in my favorite quote, I was very frustrated with how long it took me to even get to baby steps. But people see me now and they're like, oh, well, I'm nowhere near where you are. I haven't been here forever. And so this is just a little glimpse about what my stroke looked like. This is me trying to say mom.
Mom. Yeah. Papa.
Papa? No, she's saying Bobby or Mom.
Papa. Papa.
And Bobby?
Yeah. Yeah, Bobby.
Yeah.
Bobby.
Yeah.
Were you guys able to hear that okay?
Yes, we were. Yeah.
Great. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So you can see it started in speech and occupational and physical therapy. I was in there every day, working on each of those different disciplines. I had a lot of balance issues. I didn't have dexterity in my hands. I couldn't hold a pencil. I didn't know what letters or numbers were anymore. I couldn't say words that were more than one syllable, and that's very hard to. It limits a lot of your vocabulary. You can say the yes and no and the hi and bye, but beyond that, that was my vocabulary for a long time. I will never forget, and one of my favorite quotes of all time, when I was sitting in my speech therapist's office, I would sit there in the same seat every single day, and I would stare at this wall in front of me that had quotes on it. And one of my favorite quotes that I read every single day was "Speak with intention." And I would just stare at that quote and I'd think, man, if only I could speak, that would be nice. I would love to speak with intention. But it kind of took on a new meaning to me, right? Because in life, we talk a lot. We talk a lot and we don't think about it. And it's one of those things where it's just natural. You've done it your entire life. So when you lose the ability, whether it's aphasia, apraxia, dysarthria, and losing the ability could be that you speak slower. It could be that you don't remember all the words. It could be that when you try to say a word, is completely different than what you wanted to say, or you mess the syllables up, whatever that may look like for you. Speak with intention took on a new meaning for me, because now I was thinking about every single word I was saying, not because I wanted to, but because I had to, because that was the only way that I was going to be able to communicate with anyone. And so now when I speak, I still very much have to concentrate on what I'm saying and how to move my mouth to say those words properly so that anyone can understand. And I got to be honest, when I'm sleepy or when I've overworked or when I've got a lot on my mind, I still slur and kind of sound like I'm drunk at 12 o'clock on a Tuesday. But speaking with intention for me now is so much more than just what you're saying. It's having the ability to communicate, because I feel like when you feel heard and seen and understood, those are things that you don't realize until they're gone. And so I spent so much of my time. Obviously, I didn't work at all. This was my rehab was my full-time job, every day to get back to some sort of normalcy. And so I did get to a point at which I could kind of say words in a way.
What's this?
Bob.
Mouse.
Mouth. Dab.
Mouse.
Bad. Bob.
It's hard, right?
Yeah.
Say mouse.
Mug.
Okay. So the TH and stuff.
Yeah.
Male.
Mayo.
Not mayo. Male.
Meow.
In between.
So I don't know about you all, but I did a lot of laughing to keep from crying during my recovery. Because sometimes all you wanted to do was cry because it's so frustrating when you're able to do something for 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 years and then all of a sudden it's gone. And so my husband, my family, my friends, my caregiver team, we just tried to laugh off how ridiculous half of it was all the time. When you are trying and you know how to say the word in your head, but you can't get that word out, it is one of the most frustrating feelings in the entire world. But I also don't want to fool you, and I kind of want to insert, and I was going to talk about this later, but I do want to insert that, like I said earlier, strokes suck. They're the worst. And I think a lot of times it's because they come on so suddenly. A lot of times you didn't have precursors for it, or your precursors were 10 minutes before it happened. And then the disruption that they do in your life at that point. And so I always like to remind people that in a lot of my videos and pictures and everything else, you'll see a lot of smiling and laughing, and once again, a lot of that is to keep from crying. But I do want to say that um, it was hard, and there were some really really dark times. So sometimes people see these laughing videos of me struggling to get through saying the word male instead of mayo, and think, oh gosh, I'm just not that positive about it. And I just want to be very real and honest in saying this was not 100% of the time. This probably wasn't even 40% of the time. I did a lot of throwing of communication boards and whiteboards. One time I threw a meal plate across the room because I was so frustrated that no one could understand me. Another time I threw a bowl of mac and cheese because I couldn't talk, but I was so excited. Mac and cheese is my favorite food in the entire world. And I took a bite and where I couldn't chew properly and I couldn't move my jaw properly because of my stroke. It was my first meal after my stroke, and I bit the side of my mouth so badly that I started bleeding everywhere. And then I had blood all in my mac and cheese, and I was just devastated. And of course, it's just a bowl of mac and cheese, but when you're in that moment, it's so much bigger than that. So I just once again want to reiterate that what you see here, the laughing, the smiling, that is not the full picture. I could probably show you a lot of other videos that my husband would be very embarrassed by my behavior. So I worked very hard, as all of us do, to get some sort of normalcy back, whatever that even meant anymore, because it was a new normal, right? Nothing was ever going to be exactly the same. But a part of my recovery is that I decided I want to create something that is going to help other people when they are sitting right here where I am right now. Because no matter where I am in the world doing advocacy work, everyone says the same thing of, we didn't have enough resources. We didn't know what communities, and the communities are out there. It's just how do we connect to those? We felt alone, and we didn't know what our next steps were. And so I wanted to bridge that gap. And so in speech therapy, I actually created with my therapist, of course, my organization called Stroke of Luck. And Stroke of Luck focuses on advocacy, education, and support. Those are the three pillars. A part of the support are my stroke support boxes. And those stroke support boxes contain comfort items, they contain therapy items, they contain things like free therapy services, links to different support groups that they can join just like this via Zoom, where they can connect and really be able to relate to other people who are going through what they're going through. It does contain inspirational quotes because I, just like Ella, love those because they really helped me to relate to what I wanted my life to look like versus staying put in where I was. And it contains things like inspirational coloring books that has inspirational quotes on it that you can color, and then just resources for all over the world, different resources for stroke. And these stroke support boxes are funded by different grants. Family members can buy them and have them sent. These stroke support boxes have been sent to every single state in the US and 11 different countries outside of the US. And so I felt like this was at least something that I could do to get back to the people because I didn't have that opportunity. Another really cool part of my advocacy work is legislation. I didn't realize that normal people like me and you and your neighbor can be advocates and can really make a difference because our voices matter more than the lawmakers' voices matter. They're there to serve us and our needs and our desires and what we need for them to do for us into law. And so a part of my advocacy that is very important to me is transportation laws. So, getting to the right hospital for your kind of stroke so that you could get the life-saving procedures that you need for your specific type of stroke hasn't always been a law in every country, in every state. Currently in the US, still only 41 states have either protocols in place or working on finalizing those to make sure that that patients can get to the appropriate hospitals for a thrombectomy for a life-saving procedure. We do know that more than 500,000 of stroke patients do need rehab following a stroke. But there are many stroke patients that actually survive and thrive after a stroke. And usually the common denominator in why they have survived and are thriving is that of a thrombectomy. And so working on that legislation is so important to me because we know that, having that life-saving procedure when all those neurons are dying per second in your brain is so important to get to the right hospital in the right amount of time. And it's truly my goal all over the world to ensure that every person that is having a stroke, it receives timely assessments, triage that is important to them, and transport and getting them to the specific treatment that they will need that can dramatically increase their chances of not only surviving, but also thriving post-stroke. So that is a part of my legislation work. I love it so much. I think it's really cool that normal people can make a big impact, and I want to encourage everyone to reach out if you want any assistance, being able to know how your voice can be heard. I love connecting people with others to make an impact in the world, no matter where you live. All right, this is it. I just want to once again show you the other side of a stroke, right? So this is me being released from the hospital, and I was sent to get my medication. I wasn't set up with any services. I wasn't set up with what's next, who to reach out to. I didn't have any speech, occupational, physical therapy appointments set up or anything. I was just sent out into the world what I almost felt like a newborn. I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I couldn't read, I couldn't write. And I was just a 30-year-old um, infant. And I was sent to the grocery store to get my medication and told good luck. And so, an important part of advocacy is not only speaking for the people and in the state houses, but it's speaking for people like this, right? It's speaking for people that have no idea what to do next, don't know where to go, don't know who to talk to, and making sure that you're a connector so that anytime someone feels like this in the Kroger shopping aisle with it looks like ketchup and a pizza and ice cream in your cart, that you don't feel so alone, right? That you do feel like there's some hope to continue on and what that can look like. So I just want to encourage each of you to continue to be as amazing as you are, and don't ever diminish or minimize your power as a person that has had a stroke, and the voice that you now have, having gone through what you've gone through, and how your voice is often the most important voice in the room to make an impact in someone else's life. So thank you so much for having me. And I hope this hasn't gone over too long, but I do want to kind of hand it back to our fearless lady leaders. And I'm happy to take any questions, ladies, if we have time. If you don't, that's okay too.
Um, Thank you, Jerry. Thank you so much for that. That was an awesome presentation. Are there any questions, comments, reflections, anything that you'd like to say to Jerry? Open, the floor is open. Yeah, Jackie.
So I would say for thank you so much for sharing your story because I remember after I had my stroke, I had such overwhelming feelings because I, like you, thought it was only an old person thing, and I remember feeling okay in the hospital because I was being taken care of. But when I went home, I would scour the internet looking for information to make sure I did everything I could to mitigate a second one or a third one or whatever. But all the statistics got in my head and like the PTSD was so bad. So I then would scour Instagram to try and find like survivor stories because that is what made me feel better. So in sharing your story, that really does help. That really does help that space of like, panic.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Jeri, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your story. And it's almost maybe is ironic the word that you started by saying you lost your voice and you went through all the struggle to gain that back. And there's that quote that was talking about speak with intention, I think the quote was.
Yeah.
And now listening to you speak, it's like, holy smokes, are you good? Um, yeah, just everything you said sounds like it was so intentional and just said so eloquently, and a lot of it rang true for me. And I, yeah, again, just wanted to say thank you so much. I'm so happy that we have the audience we do here today to hear it as well.
Yeah, of course. And I just want to thank you all for not only having me, but for being a community of people that want to gather together. Obviously, we're stronger in numbers together. And so I appreciate everyone being able to get together and really embrace the journey that we're on. Even though they're all so daggone different, we all can relate to each other in special ways. So, I love what you guys are doing, and I wish everyone on here the best.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Anyone have anything, even if it's not a question for Jeri, anything that rang true for you during her talk, comments? Haas, just I see you put a message in the chat. Very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I just wanted to quickly say thank you for sharing your story with us. And one thing that I actually realized that I didn't do that you did was record myself. I wish I had those moments with me. As hard as they would be to rewatch, I would like to see progress of where I was and where I am now. Um, but yeah, I think it's amazing all the advocacy work that you're doing. I already followed you on Instagram. So I'm sure you have a lot of resources and ideas to share, and I'm all about that. I like looking for things that are going to help me, and if they help me, they help my family. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah. Well, and I just want to say also, we never stop recovering. So make sure that you're recording yourself now as well, because I think even 5 or 10 years from now, you'll look back at now and be like, oh my gosh, I've improved so much from that
For
time.
sure.
So like it's never over. It's never over until it's over. So
I agree.
it's important to make sure that I wish you would have had those videos because even though they were awful, they help you to kind of push you. But I promise you that in 5 or 10 years, you're going to look back at where you are in your speech or your advocacy or your mobility and be like, wow, like I'm glad I didn't give up.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.